print statement is a command that does exactly what it sounds like. It prints text to the console. The print statement is the first piece of actual code we've talked about in this series, and it's about as simple as it gets. The print statement, despite its simplicity, is one of the most important functions in programming and exists in some form in just about every programming language. The most basic thing you can ask the print statement to do is to just simply make it say something. This is done by instructing the console to print, and then include whatever you want to be printed inside the parentheses. For example, in Python, the segment of code print hello world will cause a message reading hello world to appear onto the console. Pretty neat. The print statement is also vital for viewing and interpreting the computer's output from a program. For instance, if you tell a computer to run a simple calculation, for example to determine what 4 plus 3 is, it will run the program internally and compute an answer. However, what is the purpose of having the computer run this program if you will not be able to tell what the result is? Instead of simply telling the computer to perform this calculation, instruct the computer to print the output of the program to the console, and upon the program's completion, 7 will appear on the console. As you can see, the console allows us to easily print information out to the developer for a variety of uses. It is important to note that the print statement varies depending on the programming language being used. For example, in Java, there are multiple versions of the print statement depending upon whether you would like a line break after the printed text or not, as well as specialized print statements which make your code run more efficiently. Also, the general syntax of using a print statement and certain nuances of its function can change between languages. However, you can generally rely on it to carry out the same overall function, as it is a foundational statement for programming in general. All of its functionality makes the print statement, along with the console, a very useful developer tool. However, it is important to remember that that is all it is, a developer tool. The console is not really meant to be viewed by the end user of your program. It tends to be hidden away behind the scenes, and other methods of displaying information, such as displaying text, graphics, or images, are used to convey information to the user instead. Think of it like this. When you are using your phone, you see the console in none of the programs you use. So while you can use the console to give yourself information about how your program is performing, don't try to implement it into the final product because it fundamentally just isn't meant for that. Overall, remember to use the console to its fullest extent when writing and fixing problems in your programs, as it is a great tool to use to tell how your program is performing behind the scenes.
So now that we know a bunch of information about programming languages and how and where to write them, along with the print statement under our belts, let's go over some intuitive things that the computer can do all by itself, without you having to tell it how to. More specifically, we'll be covering some basic number mathematics, as well as string math. Starting off with basic mathematics, the computer already knows how to do simple arithmetic. This includes addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, all of which are represented by the symbols shown on the screen now. In any IDE that you may install, you'll be able to print out the answer to simple math problems using the print statement, which may seem counterintuitive because why would you use the computer to do math when you have a perfectly good calculator on your phone? But you have to remember that computers are dumb, and anything we want a computer to do, we have to build up from scratch. Basic arithmetic, while simple, helps out in almost any program you may write. For example, if we wanted to build a basic calculator app, we'd need to utilize this functionality in order to correctly display the answer to an arithmetic problem when our user tries to add, subtract, multiply, or divide two numbers. Now, in addition to the 4 basic math equations, most programming languages include an additional operator known as modulus. If this is your first time hearing this word, don't worry, since it's not usually taught in math classes. Modulus allows us to get the remainder of a divisional operation. For example, when we take 10 modulus 3, we are essentially telling the computer to take 10, divide it by 3, ignore the actual answer, and just give us the remainder of the operation,